Hello, welcome to another episode of the ARU Start-up Podcast. My name is Omkar Singh, and today we have a special guest speaker, Lily Cheng. She is an entrepreneur and making a difference through her rising network. In this episode, we will be learning about her inspiring journey in entrepreneurship, how she started a business, and the common challenges that she encountered. We will also be learning about the rising network itself and the difference it is trying to make in the community. And stay tuned until the last to learn more about the women in entrepreneurship space and get some great tips and advice from our guest speaker. So let's welcome Lily. Hi, Lily. Nice to have
Hi,
you today.
Omkar. Hi, Omkar. Thank you for having me.
It is such a pleasure to have you and learn from your story, really. So my first question is, please introduce yourself to our audience and what you are currently involved in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so as Omkar introduced me, my name is Lily Cheng, and I'm the founder of the Rising Network. And the network is very much centered around empowering individuals to reach their potential, particularly women. So women who are entering workforce, women who are working, whether they're working in the corporate setting or whether they are aspiring entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs. Our network is designed to empower these women to reach their potential through workshops, networking opportunities, lots of learning and development opportunities that we create with community business leaders. Alongside that, there's kind of like two-prong with our mission is we also endeavour to close the gender gap by providing that platform for industry experts, business folk, individuals to discuss ways to improve diversity and inclusion, particularly in the workplace.
Yeah. So, what made you start the Rising Network? What was your initial, thought that you have to do this while? Is it something that you started while you were at ARU,
Yeah.
or was it after?
Yeah. So I'll give you a bit of background into my upbringing. So I'm a British-born Chinese. My parents immigrated here in the 80s. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s. And during my time then, Cambridge looked very different to what it looks like now. I faced quite a lot of adversity, challenges, particularly discrimination and racism. And then I found myself going to university and going into the world of work. And what I found with my personal experience, when I entered the workplace, I found that typically I was surrounded by senior individuals who looked a certain type. So typically they were male, of a certain age, all kind of looked the same. And what that left me feeling was there's no sense of belonging here. It also made me question, is technology for me? I was working in a technology network at that time. And also it made me question my self-confidence. Imposter syndrome came up an awful lot. And over the years of doing this work with the Rising Network, over 10 years, we've had over 35,000 individuals that have come through the doors of our training sessions and our events. One of the top areas that we are trying to address and to support women is that imposter syndrome, that confidence piece. So that's what happened to me. This was back in 2012, 2013. I was in tech and thought, this isn't good enough. Where are all the role models? Where are the mentors? And where are the women in leadership? So I basically went on a personal quest to address this. So I ran the Rising Network alongside my full-time job for quite a few years. And when I set it up, my idea was not necessarily for it to be a business as such. I wasn't thinking I want to be an entrepreneur. It was simply a problem that I had experienced, a pain point that I had experienced, and I wanted to address it. I was curious. I wanted to make some kind of change, as well as provide myself with the space to learn, develop, and thrive.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And particularly in women entrepreneurial space, did you encounter any unique challenges that is not really common for the other side of entrepreneurship? and how did you try to overcome those?
I think as an entrepreneur, I've probably shared the same challenges as many, and that's not gender related at all. Um, it's been a steep learning curve, I would say, certainly. I studied business management and marketing at university, but what I've got to say is it's completely different learning the theories to actually the world of work and what you learn. So but I enjoyed it. I remained curious. I was eager to learn. So I think the biggest challenge I've probably experienced is the access to finance piece. Looking back, I probably would have spent more time on this in hindsight. However, we learn through our failings and through these mistakes. So, I wouldn't change my journey at all. But yeah, just back to your question, with women in entrepreneurship, do we have additional barriers? I think it's that finance piece when it comes to accessing investment. There is unconscious bias that takes place when women do pitch for investment. There's tons of research and stats out there that prove this, as well as self-confidence to put yourself forward.
Yeah. And coming to the rising network that you have found for women, obviously, to improve their confidence. So have you got any, over the down line from 2012 to until today, have you got any case studies or examples where they have, the members of the community has seen a significant increase in the confidence and any progress, any positive stories from the network?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got fantastic testimonials of women who have come in the past who are in a position and they're wanting to go into management, for example, or senior leadership, and they've been with us for a couple of years, and through the Rising Network, providing that safe environment where they can build a network, connect with peers outside of their organization, but also it's that kind of closed forum, that safe environment where we can discuss the challenges, where we offer skills building workshops, etc. We bring in experts, we bring in teachers and coaches, so they have access to all of that kind of rich learning there. And so we've seen many individuals that have come through the doors who, and personally, I've followed them, I've become friends with them, and seen them progress in their careers.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I was reading about the Rising Network, and it was mentioned, if I'm not wrong, have you done 300 plus events? I can't really remember. Is it 300 plus events you have done?
500 plus events.
500. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think under my professional belt is over 1,000 now, I would say. And yeah, 35,000 individuals have come through the doors over the years.
And it is open for everybody, so anyone can join in.
So yeah, it's open to everybody. Obviously, when you're going into business or entrepreneurship, you find your niche. And so with us, the niche is working professionals who are, who are women or female, or however you decide to label yourself. It's open to anybody to come in. However, we do address specific challenges and barriers that directly impact or are related to us as individuals.
Yeah. So you have, you mentioned about 500 events so far you have hosted, and obviously you're aspiring to host more and get more people involved. So what's your experience looking like when particularly hosting these sort of events, such as 500 plus?
So I've been working in kind of marketing and business for some time now, and my view when it comes to events, it's all about engagement with your audience and your customers and providing that unique experience so that when they have a touch point with our brand, it's memorable, they build that loyalty, that trust is there. So that's how I view events. And my experience is, it's very process driven, I would say. If you're able to kind of nail that process, and it's learning. So over the years, I've learned, I've tested and tried what works, what doesn't work. So any individuals who's thinking about going into this line of work, again, it's, look at the industry that you're going into. the context, right? Are you going into the corporate space, or are you looking at kind of more SMEs? And adapting what you do within that context. But when it comes to event management, for me, it's all about engagement and building that trust with the
Yeah.
end customer.
Yeah. So have you got a team who manages this kind of large scale events, or is it just a solo entrepreneur?
So over the years, I built up a team. The pandemic, unfortunately, impacted the business quite severely. I think it impacted the world. We weren't able to organize any events. So the business model has actually changed. So as an entrepreneur, you have to be agile, and you've got to change to market needs, as well as what is happening externally, as well as internal, right? So actually the pandemic gave me the opportunity to step away and to look at strategically, where would I like to take the Rising Network moving forward? And the way I did this was, A, I looked externally at what was going on, the opportunities, and B, I also looked at the direction that I wanted to go as an individual. So, I think that's really important when you're an entrepreneur, to not forget about what your passion is and that fire in the belly, and to not lose sight of that, because times can get really tough. And if you lose sight of that, it's not great. So now moving forward, coming out of the pandemic, my focus is scaling the Rising Festival, and hopefully bringing it into different locations. So the way I work now is I pretty much oversee everything, and then I call on interim support freelancers and contractors. And for now, that seems to work very well, and it's lean. I think in the future, I'll have to review that.
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, I was about to ask, what's your future plans with Rising Network as it is expanding? And you said,
Yes.
so 35,000 plus audience you have so far engaged. So are you expecting it's going to be double, triple the numbers in coming years?
I don't know, Omkar. That would be that would be great to know that. For me, like I said, I've just shared with you my journey with the pandemic and where we're going. I obviously have a forecast and a vision, but for me, it's retesting, floating the Rising Festival back out there, and like I said, bringing it into different locations, which should increase the numbers overall, certainly.
Yeah, I think it's creating more impact to more people, so that they can, particularly the women in professional space, can make most of the opportunity available at the network. Moving on, so I've got some special questions for you, because you were associated with Anglo Ruskin, and as a student at ARU. So can you remember some of the memories at ARU, and and maybe slightly highlight about how did you engage with the university? Was it any sort of inspiration that gave you your time at ARU to start this kind of a big network?
Yes. So my experience, I think, is quite different to most ARU students who are kind of going through their courses at the moment. I was at university, it was almost 20 years ago, and ARU was very different to what it looks like now. So, in terms of the course and the content and the teachers, I had access to that. At the time, however, we didn't have access to other entrepreneurs or the business network. The network wasn't that tight back then. What I would say, though, is from what I see now with ARU, I have a closer relationship with them now, is that I'm part of a mentoring program. I've also been part of the event management program, where I would take in between 3 to 5 students for a module, and they would get hands-on experience working in a large-scale event, and it would be part of their module, and they'd be assessed on that. So I think my relationship with our ARU, and from what I see ARU are offering now, is invaluable in terms of access to the business networks and individuals who are entrepreneurs. I think the programs that ARU have got on now are fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for also letting you know letting us know your current association with the university in terms of providing that support to the students in even management field. So particularly when we speak to some students and the recent graduates, they are quite less confident in term of specific areas in entrepreneurship or jumping straight into going in business. Do you have any specific advice for them, or should they just follow your footsteps on saying having a full-time job with an entrepreneurship career, or straight there?
Yeah, I think it's personal, Omkar. I think it's down to the individual which path they would like to make. For me, I went into the business not knowing it was going to be a business. It was a personal endeavor. It was a passion of mine. It was like a pain point, an issue that I had that I wanted to address because there were no solutions at the time. I think the advice now is, again, it's personal, but what I would suggest is find a mentor, a business mentor, and get some business advisors around you, because I'm guessing it may be first or second business. If students are listening to this, it might be their first business, and to learn from those individuals and just be a sponge and absorb everything. Because the theory side of business is very different to when you're actually doing it, and the resilience that's required. Oh my goodness me, you're going to have tough times, right? When you're trying to figure it out, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail, but it's having that flexible mindset, receiving feedback without taking it personally. And just to kind of remain curious. And then there's other programs that are out there available that can take you through the different aspects of business planning. But my advice would be the mindset piece. Stay curious and get those mentors and advisors around you.
Yeah. You mentioned about some key challenges such as investment and funding for an entrepreneur who are starting their business. When they are running the business or when they're trying to scale a business, do you see any different sort of challenges that they encounter and they should really be aware of in the beginning?
Yeah, so I'll talk from my experience. The challenges that I faced was just having to oversee all the different functions within the business. So it's not just sales and marketing. You're looking at operations. You're also looking at IT and systems. So it's the ability to kind of just learn all those areas, because entering this endeavor, I had a set of skills and expertise, and then suddenly I'm thrown in this environment where I have to learn IT, systems, CRM, accounting, the whole lot. So they're the challenges that I've personally faced, is just kind of upskilling. And also upskilling in areas that might not be an area that I'm particularly fond of or passionate about, but as an entrepreneur, it's something that you have to do. So if I was to do things again, I would certainly look at can I create a cohort of other co-founders. But like I said, my journey was very different. It was more of a personal pain point that I had that I wanted to address, because if you can bring in a team of co-founders, the success rate is much higher, and then you also share the burden, and it's not so lonely and isolating. So as a founder, it can get quite isolating, which is why my recommendation is get those advisors and those mentors around you, because you're learning from individuals who have done it, and you can share those burdens and challenges with them.
Yeah. So you mentioned about having a co-founder. Can I, on their behalf, ask you a question? How do you find a co-founder, a best team member?
I don't have a co-founder.
Okay.
Yeah, which is what I said was, in hindsight, I would have loved to have a co-founder or a group, but for me, it was, I had a pain point and I wanted to address it. It was never, this is going to be a business opportunity, I'm going to set up a business. So that's not been my experience, but I know that there are loads of initiatives out there where you can pitch your idea and you can meet with other potential co-founders who also share the passion, and also want to kind of get involved in entrepreneurship. So there are platforms out there. You just probably have to search them online.
Yeah, yeah. And again, a very, I would say, a personal question. So how do you stay motivated when you're running such a, large network of people and trying to do something, every day? So how do you keep yourself motivated and try to do more?
Yeah, well, it comes back to that passion piece. So a lot of entrepreneurs create a business out of their passion, out of a problem they see or an opportunity. For me, I'm very passionate about equality for all, particularly in the world of work, because it relates back to my why and my backstory and my lived experience of discrimination. And also, I'm very interested in personal development and growth for myself as an individual. It's an area that I'm very passionate about and I love. And I can see the power that it provides individuals, right, in terms of independence, having a successful and fulfilling life. So when the moments are really tough, for me, certainly, I just remember why I've gone into it, and because I'm very passionate about it. And then I lean on my support network, my mentors, my advisors, and my friends, which is why I keep stressing during this podcast is get some mentors, have a mentor, and have your business advisors around you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think listening to the Rising Network story and the testimonials you mentioned about, I'm more curious. And of course, the audience, the listeners we have, they're also equally curious. Is what happens in the Rising Network? What it really goes through that it boosts the confidence in the participants? If you're happy to share, yeah.
Yeah, it's through learning. So we deliver learning experiences. We provide a platform, where we invite expert speakers, industry expert coaches. So when people come to the Rising Festival, for example, which is taking place on the 21st of September in Cambridge at St Barnabas Church, what people can expect is when they come there, they have multiple stages with different sessions that they can pick and choose from. So it's access to learning workshops, talks, role models, inspiration from other individuals that hopefully would provide them with that motivation, right? And that resilience or that kind of boost that they need to motivate them along their way, whether it's a journey into entrepreneurship or whether it's, life in the world of the corporate realm.
Yeah. Yeah, and also all the best with the festival coming up, and if it releases if we are releasing this episode before the date, I'm sure we'll be sending across the messages to the students or local in the region to be part of this festival.
Yes, no, that would be fantastic. I know that we do have discounted tickets for ARU students. And I believe it's been circulated within ARU at the moment. So it would be great to welcome ARU folk along to the festival.
Definitely, and I'll also ensure that the links is mentioned in the description of this when it goes on the YouTube channel, so students can click through to get the discount on the upcoming festival. So moving on with the questions, you mentioned about your current affiliation with the university. So do you also mentor students? Would you be be available for students to mentor who are trying to grow their business or start a business?
Do you mean at the moment, do you have a mentoring system in place for that to happen?
Yeah, we of course, yeah.
Yeah, so in the past, I have provide mentorship. And again, what I'd recommend is to get in touch with me and kind of take it case by case. That's typically how I do mentoring. So I mentor within a couple of universities, and again, it's a set program that I'm invited into. So happy to kind of discuss that.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because students going to get inspired with your advice to have a mentor, and I think someone who is going into an event management business, maybe they'll be inspired with this your story, and they'll be reaching out to you directly. Can you be my mentor? So in that case, yeah, it'll be beneficial, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the Rising Festival, we do have a mentoring session there, kind of like a round table. We call it mentoring circles.
Yeah.
So again, we do have the opportunity to access mentors at that event, and also, particularly understanding, if you're a mentor, if you're a mentee, the efficacies around that. So if anyone is interested in mentoring and accessing mentors, then again, we do have a dedicated session at the Rising Festival.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you for responding to all the questions about the Rising Network, women entrepreneurship, and of course sharing your inspirational story. And I think one of the key takeaways for me is you mentioned about starting a business through, and that was not intentionally to go in entrepreneurship, but it's more of solving a problem that you see around. So entrepreneurs can, when they are trying to create some ideas, they can look at the problems existing in the region and try to come up with solutions. And that's been major takeaway from today's for me. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Always is identify what the problem is, what the pain point, and then also cross-checking, is there an opportunity in this? Because a lot of resources required to start a business. So just to have that kind of logical approach and to do that market research is very important.
Yeah, I know you mentioned about a lot of tips and advice for students so far in this episode, but is there anything else that you would like to advise students on when, particularly the early stage businesses?
Yeah, I would always say stay curious, be open-minded and flexible. Be open to receiving feedback from other people without taking it personal, because sometimes like our ideas are so precious, but my view is at this very early stage is just be a sponge, be open to learning, be agile, because it's going to get tough. That flexibility and that resilience is really required, and I keep stressing the point of try and find a mentor and get those business advisors on board.
Thank you so much, Lily, for being with us today. And thanks for everybody who's listening. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode of the ARU Start-up Podcast. See you.